Hello, my name's Olurotimi Osha. We are in Mental Health Awareness Month. This is May the 2nd, 2026. Um, Today, I want to discuss the Perjured Emergency Evaluation petition against me by a Howard University professor, Jide Iwarere, who misrepresented himself as my uncle. He's not my uncle. There's no relationship between us. I've done videos explaining that. And there's a court case in Nigeria in which my mom has sworn on affidavit that Jide Iwarere one is not my uncle, and everything he wrote in the emergency evaluation petition was a malicious lie. It was a fabrication. Before I discuss that, I would just wanted to mention how uh, you know uh, there's a psychological toll, right? There's a psychological toll on the mental health of someone who's falsely accused. Not everybody has the same resilience, the sort of bounce back, right? There have been many instances in the past where people who were later exonerated from out of a wrongful accusation, wrongful charge, wrongful imprisonment, uh, they had committed suicide while they were imprisoned. Um, there was um, there was a forensic file episode that I watched. A friend of mine and I watched it, and it was a white guy, and he wasn't the sharpest of people, but he had been wrongfully convicted and imprisoned for the murder of someone. He had nothing to do with it. There was no evidence to convict, but it was relatively. He suffered from depression. He committed suicide. However, the conviction he was later exonerated because after he killed himself, the actual murderer, rapist and murderer, was discovered through DNA evidence, right? So it happens quite often in America, unfortunately, especially amongst minorities. There was a case of Tommy Lee Walker, right? A black young boy. He had been rounded up based on hearsay, gossip, as an 18-year-old for the murder and rape of a white woman. He was a black kid. He had airtight alibi. But the detective who investigated the matter was a member of the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan. And he coerced him, badgered him, pressured him, coerced him to sign a false confession, which Tommy Lee Walker later recanted. Tommy Lee Walker, unfortunately, was wrongfully convicted, despite repeated, uh, you know, um, aversions. He averred to the end that he was an innocent man, but he was executed in the electric chair in 1956. However, on January 21, 2026, he was posthumously exonerated. But hey, he's already lost his life. In fact, while I was wrongfully detained in Montgomery County, uh, between November 2024, between November 2024, December 2024, and January 2025, four people apparently committed suicide. One of them, the the cellmate that was in my cell, the person that was in my cell had been close to him. He had been close, right? He was the one of the people who committed suicide that my cellmate was close to, was a white guy who had a PhD at the National Institutes of Health. One of his names is Tyler. I remember I'd written his name down. Um, he just tied a towel around his neck and jumped from from the s- from the landing and killed himself. He committed suicide. The other three from apparent, drug overdose. Right. So not everybody has the resilience, right, to fight back. Recently, someone fought back and got exonerated after 21 years. In April 2026, a black man in Ohio by the name of Ralph Blaine Smith, who'd been wrongfully imprisoned for 21 years for an armed robbery, armed invasion, home invasion that he never committed. Uh, was eventually, he was exonerated some years back, but the Ohio finally passed a resolution and settled. They awarded him about $1.3 million for the wrongful imprisonment. But $1.3 million for 21 years of your life, that's equivalent of just over $61,000. That's less than $62,000 a year, right? It doesn't make up for so many things that you've lost, right? Jail, prison is not a good thing, right? You're in the company of derelicts, right? You're in the company of people you don't want to be with. You risk a lot. You risk a lot of, you miss a lot in your life. Uh, you know, Life is not just about being free, liberty, being free, right? We live with purpose. We often have purpose. We have ambitions. Just like me, I have ambition. I have purpose to do so many things in my life, right? I didn't go and gather like 5 university degrees because I had nothing to do. No, right? Even my coming to America, I didn't come to America because I had nothing to do in Nigeria. No, I came to America in order to do things, and even do things in Nigeria as well. There are many things I wanted to do with my life that I'm still going to do with my life by God's grace. The reason I'm talking about this is, unfortunately, I've been wrongfully accused as well, unfortunately, by a man who claims to be my uncle, right? So your family normally wants to protect you, but this madman, Jide Iwarere, right, this evil man, a monster, right, filed uh, a fraudulent emergency evaluation petition in which he made uh, fabrications, inventions, things that never occurred, false accusations. And he got his friend, Judge Bibi, a corrupt judge, right, to approve it, to find probable cause. My mom was onto something. My mom kept emphasizing that, hey, this judge um, authorized this EEP, right, gave this order on a Sunday, right? May the 14th, 2023 was a Sunday. And she kept saying, look, the judges work on Sunday. She was all the way in Nigeria, but she was stunned that how can a judge approve something on Sunday? She should be working. And she was onto something, right? Judge Bibi Berry knew Jide Iwarere very well, right? So she did it for her friend. She's a circuit judge, and I don't know what the modalities, the procedure is, the protocol, but she's a circuit judge. This was a district court case. In any event, so it's unfortunate that many people who are falsely accused, right, and end up in prison, end up in jail, end up being detained. They suffer on the burden of the psychological abuse, right? And not everybody is resilient or responds in the same manner to adversity. Some people, it wakes up their resilience. Their fight comes out, right? They fight it, just like this guy who fought for 21 years, Ralph Blaine Smith. In prison, he started to basically spend plenty of time in the law library and started researching the law and to vindicate himself. And eventually he got his vindication. The conviction was thrown out, and he got a settlement. But again, $1.3 million for 21 years of your life is nothing. Um, Today, what I wanted to do is to just show the fraud of Jide Iwarere in the emergency petition that he uh, wrongfully filed against me, and which supposedly brought cops to my home. I'm going to read through it, and I'm just going to show, as we read through it, you see the lies, the flaws, the inconsistencies, right? And of course, there's a recording. Immediately, he recanted it, right? When I was arrested and I saw my charge statement. I saw it saying, well, it said that I threatened to shoot Jide Iwarere. This was a fabrication by Demarcus Coleman in the charge statement. There was a Nigerian police officer, Sergeant Ajibade, right next to me. We talked. It was on. He was put on speaker. Immediately he said, "No, that's inaccurate. That's going to be corrected." Right. So I hadn't seen the emergency evaluation petition he filed. It took months. Right. First of all, the emergency evaluation petition was filed ex parte. Right. I've done videos discussing what an emergency evaluation petition is. For instance, the Lieutenant Governor um, Justin Fairfax, who committed a soricide and then committed suicide, he could have been emergency petitioned by his family. So it's used for someone who has a mental illness or displays signs of a mental illness. And importantly, there have to be two things present. He has that mental illness, right? And he's about to kill someone or kill himself. So he's either homicidal or suicidal. Those two elements are very important because a judge is providing the authorization to take away an American's right, someone's rights. Because remember, your mental health records, right? Those are within your medical records. Those are privacy rights, right? Those are privacy rights that can't be infringed. So the only reason why a judge or the state is intruding in this is because one poses a public safety risk immediately. There's an imminent threat, right, to avert it, right? And many times the state would rather violate that right and suffer, the consequences later, maybe money damages or whatever, than to risk a life. So it's when a right life is at risk. It's in order for the state to violate someone's right. But the state can't just arbitrarily. You don't use an emergency evaluation petition because you want to find out if somebody has a mental illness or not. That's arbitrary, right? That's a violation of one's zone of privacy rights. Your zone of privacy rights are protected by a combination of the First Amendment, the Third Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and the 14th Amendment. How do you target people? How do you decide somebody has a mental illness? That's nobody's business, right? Those are things that are private. And importantly, emergency petitions, nobody, no outsider would take that risk. It's typically a family member that would take the risk, right, of going to petition someone, right, that they should take away someone's rights and take them to a hospital. So Jide Iwarere claimed he was my family, he was my uncle. My mother wasn't aware of this. My siblings, my six siblings, my uncles, my aunts. I have an aunt in Maryland who's a psychiatrist. Jide Iwarere knew her well. She never knew. In fact, one of the hospitals I was taken to, she had worked there. They knew her. So nobody knew what was going on. This man had just fabricated this whole thing. Now, the thing about what is scientific, right? Although mental illness is very subjective, right? It's subjective, but there's still an element in medical science, right? Of scientific objectivity, right? Scientific validation, right? You can do some verification and elements of what is, scientific. What provides reasonable certainty is, uh, for instance, a condition. If it's an illness, if it's a mental illness, if it's a condition, you're saying somebody's displaying and you're observing one, and not your own delusion, making sure it's not Jide Iwarere's delusion, but something that's objective, that's observable. It is repeatable, right? It will be repeated under the same conditions, right? That condition will be repeated, right? There's replicability, right? It can be replicated, it can be reproduced, right? Other researchers, other doctors, other people see, other observers independently can verify it. For instance, when I was placed wrongfully in uh, a mental health or hospital, I could tell, over time, I could tell without seeing people's medical records what mental illness the patients had, right? If it's somebody who hallucinates, who's talking to somebody, you can tell. You're going to see him. You're going to see him today. He's going to do it tomorrow, even after taking meds, right? The meds don't take away the hallucinations. The meds just slows them down so they're not violent. That's all it does, or makes them sleep right? So you will see those who are delusional, right? There was a guy who one day, I was watching, the news, and he was telling me, "Oh, did I see him in Top Gun?" It was a white guy, and I believed it. I believed him. I thought, because somebody who's delusional, they'll tell you something and like it's real, right? You know how they say you can tell some people lie because maybe they can't look in your eyes, or an inflection in their tone or whatever. No, this person, you can't detect any lies in this person who was delusional, and he was not the only person who was delusional. And then another day he'll tell you something else. He like another time he told me he was a king of his country in Africa, and you know how he's remote, and he's telling you these things, these fantastic things. Another time he told me, oh, his great grandfather was rank zero. So because when it was becoming too much, I had to go and ask someone. And they told me, oh, he has delusions. He's delusional, right? Yeah, because I was like, okay, he tells me this thing, so many different things. They said, oh, he's actually delusional. And there are different people like that. And these people, they seem normal. So there are people who are delusional, right? So this was one of the lies that Jide Iwarere went to go and fabricate, right? He went to go and tell this lie in the emergency evaluation petition, right? And I'm going to read the lies, what he mentioned. I don't want to keep the video too long, so I'm going to do another video just explaining. But well, this can tend to take a toll on one's mental health, right? But then again, individuals are different. Some people are more resilient. Some people have a very good faith system, very good networks. Like I'm an adult who is successful, right? I come from a good family. I have a good network of friends, a support system, a good church. I'm somebody. Everything was going on well in my life, so I have that support system. It's been 3 years, right? So the hospitals they took me to, the doctors ended up saying, "No, this guy has no mental illness." Because again, if it's true, the conditions he wrote down, the doctors would have seen it, right? So one of the doctors, the hospital they took me to, the doctor was Dr. Martin Brandes, an older white guy, and he was excellent. It seemed irritating because he tested, so the judge would do a trick. He did things that were illegal because I refused to volunteer to go and see a psychiatrist and do an evaluation because that was what they were offering me. I refused. I said, I'm not going to do that because I'm not ill, right? I don't have a mental illness. Why would I go and see a psychiatrist? They filed false charges against me, right? And based on what the lies Jide Iwarere told a fabrication, and I'm not going to do that. I've been sure there was fraud. I'm not going to do that, right? So the judge used an incompetent to stand trial order, right? And I'll explain how this all came about. So this psychiatrist, Dr. Martin Brandes, he would, for other people, typically he would tell them when he's interviewing them, right? Just takes 30 minutes, doesn't take time. He would find them competent. But this guy did a 10-hour interview with me because the judge had lied. Judge James Bonifant, he'd lied, he'd fabricated. He said I was delusional. And the lawyer, Jide Iwarere, got lied, said I was delusional. So they were just telling lies. So this hospital, right? First of all, they didn't give me any medication because they'll test you when you come in. The guy tested me. He asked me about the president. I should list the last 5 presidents in order. He would ask a variety of things. I was like, okay, this guy's smart. Interestingly, though, at the end of all this stuff, when I was released, you know what? The same judge who was lying, who lied that I was delusional, was now calling me highly intelligent. So it was so, in fact, I almost felt embarrassed because in the end, everybody, my friends came around. Everybody just was talking about highly intelligent. So you also want to have friends that are good. I didn't know how highly my friends, my very intelligent friend who came, my support was just saying, hey, Olu's a highly intelligent person, right? My attorney, the public defender, the district public defender who came to interview me, he didn't know me at the time, but he too, because there were other people, my pastors came, the pastor who married me, who knew me, has known me over 20 years. So that district public defender was saying, hey, this man's a very intelligent man. Eventually, the psychiatrist, they wanted to give me what was it? They wanted to do an IQ test. I refused. But those psychiatrists there, they kept talking about my intelligence. I have a high intelligence. The judge himself now was now talking about how, oh, I have a high intelligence, that my resume have they seen my resume is so impressive, blah blah blah. Because the state attorney, the crooked racist state attorney, even though they had found that, okay, I had no mental illness, the psychiatrist has said I had no mental illness, so I'd been held there wrongfully, and I was competent to stand trial, so I shouldn't have been there in the first place, and I had a law degree. He was saying they should actually send me back to jail until the trial, the sham trial, right? So the judge said, no, have you seen this guy's resume? And they kept saying, oh, this guy is highly intelligent, blah blah blah. Okay, no problem. Now, how did this trial, uh, this whole thing come about? By the way, one of my pastors, who happens to, he had been a psychology professor of psychology. He's a psychologist. When he found that, I wasn't around, he hadn't heard from me after I had been abducted, after the swatting, right, on May 16, 2023. He looked for a way to reach out to Jide Iwarere because he knew that I knew Jide Iwarere. So he called him, got his number online because he's a professor at Howard University, got his number and called him. And that was how he got back in touch with me. And Jide Iwarere gave me his number because Jide Iwarere was coming to see me in jail. He never came to see me at the hospital. He refused to come. His family never came to see me, and he was saying he's my family. So when Jide Iwarere came and he told me that this guy called, that, can he tell him? I told him that no, he should tell him, he should tell him where I am. So I asked for his number. So Jide Iwarere gave me his number. I called him. So when we were talking, the pastor asked him, why did he, what happened? Because I told the pastor what happened. So Jide Iwarere gave him this cock and bull story. Jide Iwarere told him that actually, because the pastor was initially trying to tell me that, okay, you know what, just accept the plea bargain to do the evaluation and take whatever treatment they want to give you, and they'll let you go, right? You resume your career. Nobody will know. It won't be on your record, blah, 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 because that was what they were offering, right? He explained to me that, look, the charge is fake, that Jide Iwarere had admitted to him. I told him that the police wanted to help me. That's why they filed the false charges. He said that I attacked my neighbors, right? I was in a fight, I beat up, but I attacked my neighbors, right? And that the police were trying to help me, and Jide Iwarere, so they called Jide Iwarere to file the fake petition, but they knew that I would refuse to go and do an evaluation, and that's why the police filed fake charges, falsely accused me of committing a crime against them, that the charges were fake, that they're just going to delay me, that the sooner I accept the plea bargain and take treatment or do an evaluation, and I should just go and do the evaluation, take treatment. I said never. So he had already admitted to me, that's my pastor, that Jide Iwarere told him that the police filed fake charges. And I was saying, look, that's illegal, right? It's illegal for the police to file fake charges against me, for Jide Iwarere to have gone to fabricate an emergency petition just to get me to do an evaluation and take treatment. That's all illegal. And this conversation was actually over the uh, jailhouse phones. It's recorded. All those conversations are recorded. So Jide Iwarere and Montgomery County Police and Montgomery prosecutors and the judge committed crimes, right? They're actually crimes. You cannot, it's an abusive process. It's an abuse of my constitutional and civil rights, right? Those are actually crimes. It's a violation of 18 USC section 241, 242, and 42 USC section 1983. That's malicious prosecution. It's a crime. They committed a crime. My pastor admitted, he told me, he said Jide Iwarere told him. So I'm going to read the false charges. So they just fabricated everything I knew. So they were gaslighting me, trying to gaslight me, trying to make it seem like I'm this Jekyll and Hyde character that went into, committed this stuff, and I didn't know. Because right away at jail, when they arrested me, they were like, oh, I was in a violent fight, I attacked somebody. I said, what are you talking about? No, that didn't happen. At the hospital, when they took me there, they were saying it. They said, oh, that I was threatening to bomb people, that I attacked my neighbors. I came out with a baseball bat, wanted to hit people, wanted to stab people. I'm like, it's a lie. They brought a peace order that was a fabrication. This guy called Germa Shumi, falsely claiming that, oh, well, that he was on the corridor and I pulled him in, Jekyll and Hyde, pulled him inside my apartment, threw him on the ground, told him I was law enforcement. That was what he actually wrote. Law enforcement seized his phone. He managed to escape. Germa Shumi cannot speak a word of English. Germa Shumi was the one who came with Jide Iwarere on May 14 to attack me, actually. They tried to remove me, kidnap me. And as I screamed, they dropped the phone. One of them, three of them, I think maybe his young son or something, dropped the phone in the corridor. They had a timer and it ran off. It was my neighbor in 503 who came to pick it up. My friend, because I was on the phone with my friend, Sharon Smith. I'm sorry, Sharon Caruth, my friend. She was on the phone with her. She told me immediately call the police. She wrote a statement. She talked with the police sergeant, Charles Drengwitz, who spoke with her when he came, when he arrived. He spoke with her for almost 10 minutes. She wrote a statement. She told the state attorney, right? So this is a Brady rule violation. So this is a crime. I have a witness, and this is somebody who's an Ivy League graduate. She's a responsible person. So so these are our cops are corrupt. Our state attorneys are corrupt. They're crooked. And in any event, I'm going to do another video and actually read the emergency evaluation petition, so this video doesn't get too long. My name is Olurotimi Osha, and I'll keep you posted. Thank you.